and Uncle Jocelyn. Welcome to the New Renaissance Experience. This one we call sound current. Now we understand the metaphysics of vibration and how sound becomes light. But when we say sound current, we're going to a different dimension of the definition. We want this to sound current, as in sound like the current times that we're living in. Because people have requested something to vibe to, something to put their mind to, something to subscribe to. So I oblige. This ain't meant to sound like it comes from the temple or a village. This is meant to sound secular, but with a sacred and cultural and traditional core. So vibe out with us
Sounds like he's coming from
and enjoy the experience. As the moon reflects the light from the sun, the way is open and the journey's begun. I had to remind myself I'm not the only one. I brought my whole tribe with me, and we rode swiftly through the ghetto terrain, letting go of the pain, take responsibility so there's no one to blame. On Kemmunion till our level's the same, accountability so we can leverage our pain. Stay with me, they say, is he really who he say he is? Well, every day he is standing in this square or circle. When you and I verse, we created a verse that gave birth to earth. It ain't much, but we still make it work. It ain't much, but we still give it worth. They keep asking what I'm cooking in the kitchen. Whatever it is, it's got to be based on tradition. Internet, ethernet, metaverse, watch the net work in and through me. I still be yours truly, as above, so below. My soul is pure beauty. The words that I speak are a tribute for Jehuti. You're 52. A mentor, I'm in and I tend raw. I get centered before I enter the temple. And the temple's within me is that has C in tech. Can I eat? Come on. Greetings. Peace to the righteous and respectable chat. Let us get our manners in order. So, who am I talking to and where y'all from? I saw a couple people chimed in from East Orange already.
So let's get in order. Let's get our manners together. Okay, Jason Holmes, of course, from Nebraska, Nebraska in the house again. New Haven, Connecticut. Marie from New Haven, Connecticut. Or Sheree from Westfield, New Jersey. Okay. Daddy's little girl forever from Long Island. Wadat Kamut from Edmond, Oklahoma. Judy Rod from Orange, New Jersey. Kaiti from Ohio. Noob Second Ka. Okima. Christine or Christian from Greensboro, North Carolina. Curtsy from Delaware. At work. She at work, we at work. They put in that work. Tara from Reading, Pennsylvania. You know, I'm gonna comedicize y'all names and places as we go along. You know, we stay creative over here. Hampton, Connecticut. Shimset. I'm gonna get in a few more minutes for y'all to get y'all manners together. I think that's about everybody for now. We're about to proceed as normal. So let us get into it with our opening prayer for the day. Amatu and Panetir, Sawek Tuament and Panetir, Awudwalma Keti Pa Heru. Give yourself to the divine daily. Keep yourself for the divine daily. And may tomorrow be as today. We give homage to the Creator, who is like our Father and who is like our Mother, who is everything that we can perceive and everything that we cannot perceive, who is everything yet is no thing, who comes to us in the form of the Netru Ra, who is the light of the heavens, light of the inner planes, as well as the light of our lives, who shines the light for us on the path of Ma'ati, which is the path of truth, justice, righteousness, and harmonious balance, who comes to us in the form of the light of vitality, giving us the strength and the endurance to live and act upon that which we know to be true. Homage to you, the one who shines in and through us as a beacon of light for those who are blind to the facts of their place, their position, and their responsibilities in the divine scheme of things. May we be Ma'akiru, true of thought, word, and deed, to our highest reality, and in our moments of crises in the dark nights of the soul when it appears that everyone and everything else has let us down. So it is, and so shall it be. Amen. Ma'at. Yiti. Welcome to the Communion Experience. I'm your host, Nasip Biddy Ross Uncle Kemper. As we explained the last several communions, and that is on her sabbatical, so keep her in light, in love, and keep her elevated as we proceed with our program as we go on today. Now, today we're going to start with what I call Seshedu M. Kemet. Seshedu M. Kemet is recitals from the text of ancient Kemet. So the passage that I'm going to read today is from someone called Ainini, also known as Anina. He was an architect in the royal court of Jehutimus III, who was also the brother of Queen/King or Nasut Hatshepsut, and also the two former kings before them too. So technically he was an OG. So this is part of his declarations of righteousness, that he changed some things before he went on to the ancestors. So this is what he said. He said, I sought out beneficial things, and I was vigilant in seeking that which was beneficial for future generations. See, he's talking about posterity here. It was a demonstration of my wisdom. I was not given instruction by an elder. May I be venerated for my wisdom in future years by those who will emulate what I've done. So now this passage is supportive of our short talk today. The theme of our short talk today is forever forward. Upwards and onwards, forever forward. upwards and onwards and forever forward. When I say that, it's a word of affirmation that I dedicate to the Neter Keper. Keper is the Neteru that is responsible for coming into being or to be. Now, you've often heard us talk about the father Neter of our temple is Ra. But even before Ra, the grandfather of the Neteru is Keper. So without Keper, the principle of coming into being, none of the other Neteru can exist. So Keper, kind of like Alegba and Eshu in the Ifa tradition, he's responsible for bringing things from the unseen into the seen. So the point I'm trying to make is about moving forward and upwards and onwards is this. So the principle of Keper represents, the eggs of the dung beetle or the eggs of the beetle is inside the dung. Dung, as you know, is cow manure. So that's a metaphor for the human experience. We call it the manure of experience. But when that egg comes into maturation and that scarab beetle comes from the dung, it doesn't enter back into the dung again. Just like the counterpart over here in the West, you have the butterfly. After the butterfly emerges from the cocoon, it does not go back into the cocoon again. So when we say upwards and onwards, forever forward, in a sense, it could feel like it's almost a direct contrast to some of my peers that appear to sometimes almost feel like they're fixated in the history or fixated with the past. Now, that's no shade or aspersions on any big people that study history. There's very valuable lessons that we can learn from history or the past. But two things could be true at the same time. If we look at the inner meaning of the text, is actually showing us that we should be anchored and centered in the eternal present, so we could reach back with the authority of powerful lessons from the past equally, and we could project with confidence into the future. Now, if you've been paying attention to the past several communions, I've had very provocative topics, purposefully provocative topics. I've been trying to bring our attention to the 500-pound elephant in the room. The 500-pound elephant that's occupying our minds as Kemites, that's occupying our minds as nationalists, that occupies our minds as whatever it is that we identify as so-called melanated folks on this planet, especially over here in North America. So I know people are like, what is Mr. talking about, a 500-pound elephant? It is a metaphor. It's a proverbial 500-pound metaphor, meaning something that's right in front of our face, but we're trying to act like we don't see it. And it's gotten to the point where we can't ignore it anymore. So part of the 500-pound elephant in the room is this. There is no longer nothing or no one that is stopping you from being who it is that you're meant to be. I repeat, there is no longer anything or anyone that's stopping you or us from being who it is that we're meant to be. If we're honest with ourselves, we'll see that in the past 60 years, we've developed built-in excuses or straw man narratives that justify why we haven't become who it is that we're meant to become. We often hide behind racism. I know some people are like, oh, are you saying racism isn't real? Racism hasn't devastated us as a people, and it is. Racism is real in its own right, but it's not the 1600s. It's not the 30s. It's not the 40s. It's not the 50s or the 60s. Yes, racism has been overtly and covertly used against us, meaning up and outright and in your face and clandestine behind our backs. But once again, it is 2023. The world is totally different now at this point. The world is smarter than it's ever been. History and knowledge proliferates the planet. So what I'm saying is, you know who you are now. You know who you are as Africans. Some people don't like to identify as Africans. In respect to them, they could be like, I'm indigenous to the planet, or I'm indigenous to over here. I'm still having the same conversation with you all. Whether you believe that, I'll say, you know you're African and you know you're indigenous. So you know your history. You know who you are. And you know what you're capable of. So what I'm saying is that you owe yourself or we owe ourselves a better response to racism than to just be upset and angry. I'm gonna let that sit. We owe ourselves a better response to racism than just to be upset. And that's why things like protesting and things doesn't cut it anymore for us. We're at an unavoidable impasse where we have to finally answer a certain question. So yes, racism has been overt. Yes, racism has been covert. We know who did it. We know why they did it. Now, what are you going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? That's the question that we have to answer, that we've been hiding from. We've been hiding from that with racism. We've been hiding from that with politics. We've been hiding from it with research and just constant research over and over again. And we still haven't given our minds and our thoughts and our energy towards what are we going to do about it? Because we know that it's going to take inordinate or almost unearthly levels of discipline, or unearthly levels of sacrifice, unearthly levels of commitment, or even martyrdom. You heard that, even martyrdom. And hence is where we have the problem, why we're stuck. So you know who you are, you know where you came from, you know what you're capable of. If you've aligned yourself with this concept of nation building, but now we have the split energy. Because in the past, I'll say 25 years, people have evolved into their own independence. So people have decided, I want a family, I want a business, I want some property. So people see themselves as retiring, sitting on some type of porch, drinking lemonade or something, and it's almost diametrically opposed to nation building, the sacrifice, the commitment that comes with nation building. Nevertheless, the idea of martyrdom, when you're talking about your family and your business and retiring, you don't think about martyrdom anymore. So we have a conflict of interest. And understand, I'm not knocking anybody, all those things is good. You have the right to want good things for yourself. You have the right to want peace of mind for yourself. All I'm saying is stop putting pressure on the teachers, the leaders, the study groups, all of that, because there's always this conversation that somebody's not doing anything for the community, when the reality is it's a collective issue that we all have to decide that we're taking it to the next level of. Nobody's not teaching you the truth. Everyone that I see is teaching the truth to the best of their ability, and we keep playing this straw man game, this 500-pound elephant in the room, as though somebody's not teaching you something or holding something back from you, or why you haven't become who it is that you're meant to be, with those so-called electrical, mystical, magical powers that's supposed to come with it somehow. Because that's what it is. Some people think there was supposed to be mystical, magical powers that came with knowing who you are. And it's half truth at best. So now you have the old guard in the conscious community, and now you have all of these new people called woke people. So you got the planet is woke, and you got the old guard of the conscious community that were the vanguards of the information, and the new woke stuff, and people just figuring out stuff and they're trying to connect the dots. Sometimes they intuitively stumble upon some interesting things, and a lot of time it's nonsense. But the question is, it goes back to the 500-pound elephant in the room. There's no one and nothing stopping you from being who it is that you say you're supposed to be, whether you're from the woke community or whether you're from the conscious community. We all know what's right and what's wrong. And for all of the woke people on the planet now, and all the old guard conscious people on the planet, there's absolutely zero reasons on why the planet is in the condition that it is now. You see, that puts pressure on us. There's absolutely no reason. So have you ever heard these conversations when people be talking about the slave ships, and they be like, it couldn't have been me? They be looking like, why wasn't, out of all those hundreds of slaves on that boat, why couldn't they subdue several people with guns and stuff? And no one ever has the answer. Everybody swears they would have been passenger 57 Wesley Snipes and, right. and shutting it down. And I'm sure they tried or whatever. That's how powerful fear can be. The idea of fear, or the idea of someone else's power. Sometimes we give our oppressor superhuman power, but people be like, that wouldn't have been me. Or look at the plantations. You have several dozens of people, and you got one or two cats on a horse with a rifle, not even pointed at nobody. Just the presence of power is enough to paralyze people. Well, look at the challenge now. When they said, judge not the judgment, you judge others because you may be judged. Well, here we are. We have all the woke people on the planet. We have the conscious people. Everybody knows every dang thing. You can't tell nobody nothing. Everybody's so smart that people are literally reinterpreting history as we go along. A lot of stuff that we stood on or that we agreed upon, everybody is now retranslating because everybody's so smart now. So now we're in the same situation. I know all of you heard that there's 13 families that run this world. There's billions of people on the planet, and it's coming down to 11 to 13 families that run all this world. So is this planet the equivalent of that slave ship? So who's talking? The junk talking about that wouldn't have been them. They would have did such and such. They wouldn't have had me on the plantation. So now 13 families done make the planet a plantation. What are you going to do? Well, what are we going to do? That's something to think about. It's almost like there's so many people on the planet that's supposed to know so much better. We should have the equivalent of a million-man march every year for something. For some reason, we're supposed to be outraged, shutting something down, causing or affecting some change, because technically there's millions of people conscious at this point now. It's not a small group of people in the Northeast, and it's North America, South America. The internet, whether the information is good or not, or half true at best, people know some things and they see some things that's going on. So there should and there could be the equivalent of something like a million-man march every year if we were that serious, if we were that outraged about being who we say we're supposed to be. It's almost like we have Munchausen syndrome. I don't know if people know what Munchausen syndrome. So the official definition of Munchausen syndrome is a rare type of mental disorder in which a person fakes illness. The person may lie about symptoms, may make themselves appear to be sick, or make themselves purposely unwell. Is this what's going on with us in our so-called nation-building philosophy? Our so-called blackness, our so-called Africanness, our so-called indigenous power. We're talking a lot of mystical, magical stuff. So that's a high charge that we have. Yet, out of all of these woke people in the old guard and all this knowledge, it's hard to get us together to do anything significant. We can say, yo, we doing something next Saturday to do such and such. And people be like, next Saturday? Oh, man, I can't even make it. I ain't free till the 3rd of forever. Yeah. And we say, okay, we need everybody to get $500 to such and such. And people are like, I only got 10. So now, here we have, now when it's time to do something, we have the unavailability and the underinvestment. And we keep hiding behind racism. We keep hiding behind politics. It's all on us. It's been on us for a while. But we keep talking about history and things like that. So it's like the Munchausen syndrome. We create reasons to stay with their foot under our neck. We think we're chained down when it's really a string that we could pop easily. Every time we develop something past the study group level, our autoimmune system as a community starts kicking out. So it's like, okay, we got a group of people, like we've developed the royal court, we've developed the priesthood, we developed kings and queens, just like our ancestors did, to do what it is that they done. And then people start acting up. They're like, hold up, no, you can't do that. That's too spooky. Hold up, you can't do that. That's pseudo. Hold up, you can't do that. That's unscientific. Hold up, you can't do that because then you will be a cult. Hold up, didn't you heard what the leader did? You heard that the leader used to do, So every time we turn around and try to make certain moves within our communities, there's someone amongst ourselves that's telling us, you're not good enough for power. You're not wholesome enough for power. You're not righteous enough for power. You're not whatever. You're not ready for power. Yet the powers that be, or any nation on this earth worth mentioning, they're out there seizing their power unapologetically and not looking for anyone's permission. We somehow equated having power with, I gotta be righteous, I gotta be totally faultless. And if anybody falls short in their righteousness, then they don't get to have power. We're not going to adhere to supporting any power structure amongst ourselves. And this is a very indicting conversation that we're having. Isn't that what's happening in the Ukraine and Russia? Russia tries to seize authority over these people that's living in the land, and the people said, heck no, They fighting back. Technically, how we thought it was supposed to go, I was supposed to be light work for Russia. Here we are a year later, and they out there still fighting. People were supposed to have inferior technology is giving them people work. Isn't that what's happening with Israel and Palestine?
That's right.
Israel is trying to seize authority over these people's land, and they like, heck no, we fighting. It's uncomfortable. It's none of our business, but we watching something. There's been over $14 billion that's been given to these people, the state of Israel, to fight these so-called primitive people, and they struggling. And yet, for us, we over here waiting to vote and hoping that we could somehow guilt or shame the ex-oppression into doing justice for us. Something to look at. Also, another part of the 500-pound elephant in the room is who relegated Kemites just to be history teachers? Mikhail, was that you? Was that your generation that decided that all Kemites can't really be spiritual? We can only teach history. Everybody's excited as long as we teach in history, as long as we say, oh, look at the nose, it's black on that. Oh, look at this word, such and such, it says that they're black, such and such. That's all cool, but as soon as you try to take it serious, it's a problem. Everyone wants to stay stuck in racial and ethnic conversations. And I'm like, don't you know we won that conversation 25 years ago? Don't y'all know that there's not going to be no final showdown or Armageddon debate against the black academics against the European academics? It's not going to happen. So now we're imploding as a community. So instead of building in a community, we are actually undermining the forward progress of people that's actually trying to do things. The Europeans don't even take that stuff serious no more. The Europeans annually start up some nonsense. They'll be like, oh, we found somebody's up in the such and such 13th dynasty or whatever, and it looks like they were Mediterranean. We be losing our stuff. Well, they trying to take the culture from us, and we be throwing all our research out there to try to, because we start getting insecure. But yet, you laugh at the people that's trying to actually rebuild the culture, but you get insecure when the European annually tries to act like the culture was other than African. When in reality, if you look up Kemeticism online, it's all black folks. It ain't white folks. We're the ones, is African or dark-skinned people, the one that's getting the Kemetic names. We're the ones tattooing our bodies. We're the ones that got Kemetic logos. We're the ones got the Kemetic organizations, the Kemetic temples. We're the ones that reclaim the image. We done made the images of Kemet blacker than they originally were. White folks ain't doing that. They're not walking around with the Kemetic names, not in any comparison to us. They're not doing temples. They're not naming their children these Kemetic names. So that's how I'm just showing you that we won that conversation, but we keep rehashing it as though we're losing the conversation. In reality, over here with us at the Temple of Anu, our children are now born into the culture. They're born into the culture with names. All they see in the power structures, at least as the community as we run it, all they see is Kemites or people of color in charge. So this whole racial, ethnic thing is not going to be a conversation piece to them, because all the power players are Kemetic as far as they're concerned. It's nothing worth talking about. So as they grow up, their conversation is going to be very different from ours. They're going to want to be a doctor or lawyer just because, not in the sense of having to validate African culture or validate their blackness or their African identity. So another part of the 500-pound elephant in the room. I hope am I going too fast?
No, you're good.
Another part of the 500-pound elephant in the room. The disempowering conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theorists, meaning people that left Christianity and Islam and become part of the metaphysics community. Those that are in metaphysics like to believe themselves to be people who think outside of the box. But they pulled a lot of the talking points from the Judeo-Christian tradition. If you listen to a lot of them, they still stuck in the Bible. They become the new doomsday prophets and the hellfire preachers and stuff. You listen to them, nothing is good or could be right in the world. Everything that you thought is good is not good. And the world is going to crap and it's all bad. So they've taken the spooky version of the devil from the Bible and the Judeo-Christian tradition, and they embodied it in the form of the Pale Man or the U.S. government. And they give them superpowers to be 20 years ahead of you at any given time. Oh, they're going to get you and control your mind through the vaccines. Oh, now they're giving the vaccines to the animals, so even if you didn't get the vaccines, they're going to get you through the food. They're going to control your mind. You don't see no way out. The world is just crap. We ain't going to win. No matter how spiritual you are, they create some reason that they figured that you was going to figure that out, and they still outthought you on some level. It's very interesting. We have powerful information. We have powerful imaginations. People make up things all the time, and I'm okay with people making up things all the time. Much of the things in many of the indigenous traditions, technically in the sense, is made up. So what I'm saying, what I'm challenging you all is, if you're gonna make stuff up, why are we always using our imagination for the worst case scenarios? When we use our imagination, why are we always the victims and never the victors? Why are we always just barely surviving some evil devil's torment? So if you're going to make something up, you might as well make up something sweet. You might as well make it where you're the victor. Why are we always just surviving disappointment? Why can't we be so righteous and powerful that you have the so-called devils running, but we be using our imagination where we're always the underdog? And we're going to never not be the underdog if we keep imploding upon ourselves. So now, when I look at it out there, there's a lot of attack on all things spiritual now. A lot of the talking points that they used to attack Christianity, Islam, Judaism, they're now starting to attack just spiritual people in general. So people are attacking astrology, they're attacking yoga, they're attacking divination, they're attacking Reiki, they're attacking rituals, crystals, ancestors, all of that. So people are, because they understand there's a 500-pound elephant in the room, and everybody's not wanting to take responsibility on why they have not become the best version of themselves yet. So they see all of these things as distractions. People are like, what's the proof? So people they're almost like picking an atheistic approach to things. They're frustrated, and I get it. And they think things don't work. So I'm going to do all religion and all spirituality is solid right now. And we're going to address it in a way that most people aren't used to it being addressed. None of the aforementioned things ever were meant to be proven. I'll say it again. None of the aforementioned things were ever meant to be proven in the way y'all want things to be proven. Meaning astrology, yoga, divination, rituals, crystals, ancestor veneration. None of those things were ever meant to be proven in a way that y'all like for things to be proven. None of those people did things like, oh, I did this because it's the science of this, and I've done this, and da-da-da-da. The ancients didn't work that way. All those practices were meant to be sustenance. I repeat, all of those practices that I just mentioned were meant to be sustenance. Inside the word sustenance, you have the word sustain. It is meant to sustain you through crises until you're able to receive the answer and the clarity that you seek. I repeat, sustenance is meant to sustain you through crises till you get the answer that you seek, or the clarity that's needed. Life has a way of life, and it be throwing you in certain situations that have you straight up bewildered, and you be like, WTF, like what the heck is going on? So let's take an example of a nomadic tribe, like a nomadic indigenous tribe. It could be the Twa, or who's the other people? What's the other people? The light-skinned people. You have the Twa, the short, dark-skinned people. Is it the Sand people? The Sand, they're like light-skinned, look Asian.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Y'all know who I'm talking about, I think. Say, you just have an indigenous people that's roaming them, that's nomadic, meaning they don't have a settlement or a village or whatever. They're just nomadic. They roam. You can look at their building, you can look at their physique, and you be like, yo, they need to eat a sandwich or something. They look like they starving. So a nomadic tribe, they'll pick up a handful of berries, and they'll just keep it pushing. A lot of times we judge indigenous societies and the way they live, so-called uncivilized. I bet you their life is harder, but they handle stress better than we handle stress with all the accoutrements. We talking, we sitting up here in central air and heat, light. We got snacks. The fridge is full, and we swear we're suffering. We swear somebody's holding us back. Yet these people got to get it every day. Got to earn every meal, and they're not nearly as stressed as we are. You don't hear about indigenous people dying of heart attacks. They tend to just die in their sleep. Interesting, correct? So anyway, so they'll have a handful of berries, and the berries will carry them on to their next way station, and they'll figure it out when they get to the next way station. Interesting, right? So you approach it from a scientific perspective. When you look at the berries have sugar. The sugar are carbs. Carbs give you a burst of energy. That's all you need. You need sustenance to get from one stage to the next. Then you look at like, okay, they eat nuts and seeds. That has fat. Fat has a more consistent and longer lasting energy than the sugar, and the nuts have protein. But you will be wrong to think that, okay, everybody on the planet needs to eat fruits, nuts, seeds, and because the sand people, they've survived this way. They survived that way, getting from one point to the next point. Not to say a handful of berries is all you need for a whole day, or a handful of nuts and seeds is what you need for a whole day. Those people were using it as sustenance till they got to their next level to figure things out. I hope y'all understand the metaphor in that. So where we go wrong is trying to be like everybody needs to eat a handful of berries and they should be straight. It was just sustenance under certain circumstances. Another example is yoga and yogic breathing. There's always been a metaphysic esoteric association with breathing. But if we're honest with ourselves, breathing is just as much scientific as it is spiritual and esoteric. There's been a lot of research in breath and breath control. The mystics have done it, but a lot of the science actually verifies it. They just like to use different language to, I guess, so-called demystify it and make it seem like it's not as powerful or magical as it is. But our ancestors interpreted what they thought was magical or extra level stuff different than what, like, there's a lot of things we take for granted. So technology as we know it, our ancestors would see is magic. But anyway, so you have yogic breathing. So there's science to back up why weightlifters breathe a certain way before they lift inordinate amounts of weight. That weight that they're trying to lift brings stress upon the body, and there's only a certain way there's a certain way that you have to breathe that's going to sustain you through that trauma that you're putting on your body. Y'all seen the old Tai Chi masters, and they could be 70, 80 years old, and they're just breathing in tune with their body. And then you see the same older gentleman lift inordinate amounts of weight also because of the breathing that he's cultivated through Tai Chi. Y'all seen demonstrations where you have a bunch of young men putting weight or stress upon the old man, and he uses his breath to direct his energy and knocks them off. So breath helps sustain them through stress or tension till they figure out how to direct their energy. What about with women? What about with women who are bearing children? You remember Lamar's classes. Women have to learn the science of breathing to bring a whole human being from inside their body out into the world. They have to learn to breathe almost similar to the weightlifters. So there's nobody bringing a person into existence if they don't breathe correctly. So so each one of these things are extraordinary. When you're lifting heavy weights, we know some people are lifting 300 or 400 pounds. That's not normal. So through that breath, they're doing extraordinary things. The elderly man doing Tai Chi is doing extraordinary things through the medium of breath. The woman is literally creating life through the medium of breath. If she don't learn how to breathe properly, she will hurt herself or could possibly die trying to bring a being into existence. A weightlifter could possibly hurt himself or die if he don't use breath as the medium to handle that tension. So no, breath is not the cure-all. but it'll sustain you through some tension. And wouldn't breathing properly help a lot of people in this world? We can't say, oh, everybody needs to do yoga. Maybe they should, if you understand how breath sustains you through tension. Breath can sustain you through crises. That's what we're talking. Didn't I say these things wasn't meant to be proven necessarily scientifically? They are relatively harmless, organic ways on how to stay conscious through the crises. If it's not harming you, it's not costing you any money, why would you have a problem with that? Especially if it's working for a person. What about prayer and meditation? That's another one people like to pick on. Oh, you're spooky. Nothing exists outside yourself. Prayer and meditation, just like breathing, has always had esoteric and metaphysic meaning overlaid on top of it or underlaid under it. A lot of people have a problem with it. Let's investigate that. So that's ever since we've been Homo sapiens sapien, even Homo sapien, Homo erectus, they all had some form of reaching out. And it doesn't matter if that divine being is considered your conscious inside of you. It doesn't mean if that divine being is outside of you. It doesn't matter if it's in the sky. It doesn't matter if it's in the rock crystal. What is prayer actually doing? Prayer is discharging and diffusing tension from your nervous system. I repeat, it's discharging and diffusing excess tension from your nervous system. It's a way of unburdening your nervous system. There's been clinical studies, I don't know what's clinical studies, but there's been studies to show that there is some therapeutic effect with talking out loud. Prayer allows you a platform to be vulnerable. Because you have certain people like, oh, prayer don't work. God is not real. All the answers are within. And we've seen people's lives a straight train wreck because they said all the answers is within. But let's go to the science, back to the science or the metaphysics of prayer. So it relieves excess tension from your nervous system. Talking out loud allows you to unburden your soul, or unburden what the Greeks will call your psyche, which they got from the Kemetic saku. Unburdening the psyche, making the heart light so you can have awut ab, which is the expansion of the heart, meaning feeling light, feeling good. So prayer allows you the opportunity to voice your concern to your higher self. Remember, I said it doesn't matter if it's outside your body, inside your body, in the rock, or whatever. You could talk out loud and be like, God, I'm mad at you. I prayed and I asked you for such and such and you ain't done it. And I'm trying to understand why you didn't do it. But if you find a way to help me out with this situation, I could appreciate it. That's all prayer is doing. It's like kind of having a conversation with the universe. Like, ancestors, I'm mad. I done gave y'all offerings and such and such. I asked y'all to fix this situation. Maybe it's something that I'm not seeing, but I'm gonna try a little harder and I'm gonna try to be open. But I have confidence that you're gonna hook me up. And what happens if all of you are still here today? You've lived yourself through your prayers. Sometimes the prayer wasn't answered the way that you thought it should be, but when you look at it, it was probably better to end up the way that it ended up. And had it went the way you went, you probably would have been in an unfortunate circumstance. But what's happening here is an unburdening of the psyche. So when you go with the all answers are within, that is true. Half true at most. If you don't know how to go within and resolve yourself and get the answers, you'll become neurotic. Mark, from your clinical understanding, what's the word neurotic mean?
Neurotic is pretty similar to psychotic in a sense where you just are not getting enough sleep. You know, your mental is off. Probably have a big disconnection from spiritual, just completely off.
Can y'all hear her? I hope they can hear.
I hope they can hear too.
So pretty much neuroticism of being neurotic is, once again, is overburdening your nervous system, putting tension on your nervous system. So if you don't really know how to get those answers, now you got a person dealing with suppression, repression, then that becomes chronic disease, and now you're on a quest in the now it's just not good if you don't know really how to go within and get the answers. It's not as easy as people say it. There's certain things set up that you could do that. So after releasing stress from the central nervous system, The parasympathetic nervous system is now free. Your spirituality is pretty much very much dependent on the state of your parasympathetic nervous system. So you got to get that tension out your nervous system. You got to get it out your body. Remember, we say as above, so below, as above, as within, so without. So for many people on the earth plane, your spirituality is going to start with the physical. Sometimes we be trying to bypass the physical and go to the heavens and stuff. You're here on the earth. The heavens exist within your body. So there's certain things by way of your neurological system or your neurology that you got to get it out your system. That's why they have things like tapping and stuff like that. That's to get it out your neurology. So after releasing stress from your central nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for your sixth, your seventh, your eighth, and your ninth senses, now it could start perceiving into the atmosphere of the ethers, and this is what you're calling your uploads and your downloads. So you have to unburden the soul, unburden the central nervous system to free it up so it could be clear to figure some things out. So now you understand the process of the conversation that you're having with the universe. So you do the therapeutic talking out loud to unburden the nervous system. Now it's freed up, and now you get your intuition kick in, and then you start receiving the clarity in which you seek. So once again, prayer is not the cure-all. It gives you sustenance till you come to the clarity that you seek. What about praying over the sick? Praying over the sick oftentimes is just as much for you as it is for the person that you're praying under. So the atheists will be like, oh, there's no gods outside. What are you praying for? No gods or no invisible beings can fix anything. Be like, okay, I get it. Your gods are the doctors. Because they be like, the doctors are in control. You should be thanking the doctor for saving your life. You're like, okay, your gods are the doctors. And your gods require offerings also. The offerings is insurance, right? The hospital is going to only respond to you how good your insurance is. You're going to get your responses like if your insurance is mid, you're going to get mid service, good service. So it's the same thing. We offer offerings to the net zero and the RISA, and we get certain responses from the forces based off of how we put out energy. So their gods require offerings also. So it puts us in this position. We start stressing in our nervous system and be like, damn, they down. I don't know what to do about this. So prayer gives you a chance to express your vulnerability. So you go within. Indigenous people always understood that there's a web of existence. Everything is interconnected by an energetic web. So prayer if you've done it right and if you've been trained right, it allows you to go within to access that web. And you be like, okay, I'm going to pray and send light and energy to that part of the web that's connected to my loved one, while I have to trust that the doctor is doing what he's doing. So it never was totally in the hands of the doctor anyway. You've gone in, you tapped the web to send some energy. So there's a conjunction of the energy that you tapped in to give your loved one extra energy and the technology that the doctor is using. That's the thing that's affecting change. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. The whole point is prayer and meditation offers you the opportunity to not feel totally powerless or helpless. So if something were to happen that wasn't in your favor, you could make peace with it, to know that you used all of your resources to try to remedy the situation. You'd be like, yo, hey, I prayed, I gave offerings to the net zero, the insurance was straight with the doctor, hey, this is above me. But I literally tried everything I could possibly do to keep my loved one here. Give me a thumbs up if y'all understand the logic behind that, if it's making any sense. So once again, prayer is not a cure-all. It's just sustenance to you. Get the clarity and the answers that it is that you're seeking. Some people say, well, that sounds like a placebo. That sounds like a placebo effect. And what's interesting about the placebo effect is the placebo effect, according to science, has up to a 77% success rate. For those who don't know what a placebo effect is, it's a phenomenon that scientists study where, say if you had diabetes or cancer or whatever, they'll create a sugar pill, meaning a pill that has nothing in it, and they'll have a drug that they've developed that is supposed to address your health concern. And y'all know pharmaceutical stuff. A lot of times, it's a lot of side effects that come with that. So, in order for them to decide, is this thing part of your mind, or is it something that could be affected by our technology? So, they'll give a certain amount of people the sugar pill, and they'll give a certain amount of people the actual drug. And up to 77% of the time, the placebo effect creates the effect, the intended effect, and that's deep. 77% is a high percentage. I don't even know if the drug actually has that high of a percentage as the placebo effect. So you're like, yo, what the heck is going on? So it's all in my mind. Maybe how or why does it work? Who cares how or why does it work, long as it works? So we be making it seem like just because you can't explain something, then it can't possibly be true or it can't possibly be real. The placebo effect is the real thing that scientists recognize, and they don't understand how can you trick your mind into doing, pretty much it's producing a miracle. It starts sounding spooky, doesn't it? So the African tradition, the indigenous traditions are masters of the placebo effect. They be like, where these bees that's been sanctified by offering the blood of animals that were offered to the Neteru or the Orisa. And you be like, okay, that person, they do this thing for a living. They stay in tune for a living. I'm out here BSing, playing around, messing with girls or paying my bills or whatever. This person take it real serious. I'm taking them on their word. Okay, I'm gonna wear these beads with this blood. I'm protected. So their neurology, said it releases the stress and tension from their neurology. The parasympathetic system is working, so it's in the ethers, it's figuring stuff out. So for the most part, you stay protected. As a matter of fact, if you're here now listening to me, you're protected. So your prayers work, whatever things that you've been doing to protect yourself from evil and negativity, it worked. Sometimes life is life, and then you just gotta have some character. Sometimes you need your character built, and you gotta go through some stuff just to make sure that you're alive and you are the divine being that you keep telling everybody you are. Sometimes you just need to check in every now and then to demonstrate your authority, to demonstrate your power. So they'll be like, what about this other item with the sacred blood of the plants on it, and such and such. That's all placebo effect. So you got a high 70-something% placebo effect with the 30% science and technology to affect the change. That's not bad. So the science, whatever, ain't necessarily superior than the placebo effect that our ancestors mastered. I'd say if you're ma'atic, if you're anchored and centered in the eternal now, you'll try to use both wisely. What about divination? People think that's spooky too. Essentially, divination is the study of patterns and ascribing meaning to the patterns. Do y'all know that it's part of the human neurology to seek out and figure out patterns? Seek out, figure out, and recognize patterns. So when you get a reading, the reading is pretty much telling you what energies are governing the situation, what patterns are governing a situation. So when you do that, you relieve the nervous system of stress, and now your parasympathetic system, your neurology starts working to start figuring out what the pattern is. So it's giving you an idea what pattern to look for. So it's like breadcrumbs to get you to the place to get the answers and the clarity that it is that you're seeking. Once again, divination is not an end in all, it's not a cure-all. It just gives you sustenance till you find the clarity and the answers that you're seeking. So when you found enough variables of substance, then you have enough to determine, or when you have found enough variables of sustenance, then you have enough to determine your substance. Your substance is more of a purposeful collection of all of the things that sustain you. So when you say substance, the word sub means below and stand. So what is it that you stand on that allows you to keep your identity and keep your frame and not go insane when life is out here contradicting reality as you know it? Because it is your thoughts and it is your words that structures your reality. So what is your substance? What are you standing on, or what sustains you to keep you or to remind you of who you are when things are not going right? So what I'm saying is, don't let people guilt you or talk you off of what sustains you. If it works, it works. It's relatively harmless. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's none of no one's business. to interrupt and what sustains you. Let's go back to the Ukraine and Russia. Let's go back to Israel and Palestine. Best believe it's their religion that's sustaining them through that crisis. Y'all think it's not working. It's actually working. It is their religion that's giving them sustenance while that thing is happening, because if they didn't have that, they'll be like, oh, there's no rhyme or reason to things, and they would have perished. The Palestinians would have perished as a people a long time ago. The Ukraine as a people would have perished a long time ago. So don't ever disrespect what sustains people. So now let's go back to the top. We're talking about upwards and onwards. Forever forward. It says, I sought out beneficial things, and I was vigilant in seeking out that which was beneficial for future generations. That's a very powerful thing to do. So here you have a person, Ainini, was born into the Kemetic culture. So that's letting you, based off of what he just said, I sought out beneficial things, and I was vigilant in seeking out that which was beneficial for future generations. So it's just showing you that as much as the ancient Kemites knew, they still didn't know everything. There was still some new things to figure out, right? So he said he was vigilant. Vigilant means forever aware, always looking for something to try to improve upon. He said it was a demonstration of my wisdom. You have a lot of people that have knowledge. You have a lot of people that have information. But it takes special individuals that could take that knowledge and information to form something sweet that could affect the change. That's wisdom. So just because people read a lot of books, they might know more than me or know more than you, but if they can't do anything with it, then they're not considered wise. They're just regurgitating information. So he was pretty much on his OG status. He's like, yo, it was a demonstration of my wisdom. He's like, yo, I figured some things out. It was a demonstration of my wisdom. He was showing his pedigree. He said, I was not given instruction by an elder, meaning even though he was initiated in the traditions, your elders and your teachers can't teach you every little thing. At some point, you have to prove yourself to be competent in the tradition and competent in the things that you were learning. Everyone, there's different dimensions of everything that you were taught, and it's your job to figure out the different dimensions of what you've been taught. So yeah, you could run it by your elders, but it's not their job to handhold you through the rest of your life. They didn't, pretty much he's saying he didn't need his elders to go tell him to be great. It's your charge to be great. It's your charge to make a difference. Then he goes on to say, may I be venerated for my wisdom in future years by those who emulate what I've done. May I be venerated for my wisdom, meaning the stuff that I figure out down the line, them cats is going to be giving me props. That's what he said. He was kind of like bragging on his pedigree. They're going to see that I was on some next level stuff when they see my name. He said, by those who emulate what I've done. Doesn't that sound familiar? He said, follow the footsteps of your ancestors. Their words endure in books. Open them and read them and follow their wise counsel. So here you have his identity. Putting himself in that category. He's like, yo, I've made some contribution to civilization. My what are the predecessors? What's the people after you? Yeah, the ancestors before you, the descendants.
Yes.
So the descendants gonna know that I'm gonna be on it. So he did some things and figured out some things that his descendants of the world is gonna be looking at like, yo, and then he was the man. We need to try to be on it like him. So what he's essentially talking about is Suruj Ta, the regeneration, the renewal of the land, the renewal of the traditions of the land. So it's about honoring where you come from, but not being stagnated by what you come from, and you got to push forward without abandoning your traditions. So that's what Suruj is about. So the idea of Suruj is about taking what was there and taking it to the next level. Queen Hatshepsut did it. That's what the Nasuts were doing. That was their charge. Take what you got and see if you can make it better. Even if what you got was broken and limited, see what you could do to make it better for the future generation, and let the future generations know that the truth is within them, and you're setting them up to a level that they have something to build on. But we can't just keep going back to the past and, oh, that was hot what they did. Da, da, da. We're the connecting piece between our ancestors and our descendants. So what are we setting up for our children and our descendants to stand on our shoulders for? And that is the theme of upwards and onwards and forever forward. So I thank you for your time for today's short talk. Take what's useful and discard the rest. Of course, I don't mean to offend anyone. For no reason at all, I'm just speaking the truth to the best of my ability. I'm speaking the truth, the highest truth that I could possibly bring to you as it was inspired and given to me by my internal work and my connection and my alignment to my ancestors and the powers that sustain us all. So with that being said, I thank you. So if you feel like it was worth something, of course, if you want, give a donation through the PayPal to the Temple of Anu. We appreciate it. All of it works. All of it supports us in the work of presenting what it is that we have to give to you in even better ways. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Dua and Shin Yom
I don't know if this was like a personal thing for maybe two people, but Ikursey said, she just said it now. Ikursey said that in the beginning the YouTube was low, and then